Hello, welcome to FundForum Asia 2017. I'm Sarah Clarke, coming to you from the JW Marriott in Hong Kong. And joining me today is one of the key speakers today is Michael Falcon. So Michael, you're the CEO of Asia Pacific Global Investment Management at JP Morgan. I want to talk to you today about Asia and why it is such a good prospect. Can you tell us, is that the case?
Yeah, first, Sarah, thank you for having me here today. Look, I think Asia is a great opportunity, but I also think we need to dissect, what is Asia? What does that mean? And as I said, even in my comments this morning, Asia is a place, not a thing. We really need to look at these markets separately. Very evolved and developed markets like Japan and Australia, changing markets like Hong Kong, like what we see in Singapore as a hub for Southeast Asia, and real emergence and growth opportunities like China. And so to me, the region represents tremendous opportunity and a wide range of different types of opportunity.
Okay, so Asia's gained rapid momentum in recent years, outpacing anywhere else in the world. Which countries are leading that growth in Asia?
Well, the obvious point for recent growth and for the near, medium, and long term is China. I don't think we've seen anything like it in terms of size and speed of development of investment markets. And certainly the pace of change in general has been very, very strong, though at any given point in time, lots of stops and starts. And so China, I think, remains important and large and growing. But I also don't think, I think we need to emphasize the number of other markets that have grown, and principally also Singapore and Southeast Asia. For us, JP Morgan Asset Management, Singapore and Southeast Asia has been one of our fastest growing regions.
Okay, you mentioned, taking it back to China, that if you want to get Asia right, you have to get China right. Yeah. How do you get China right?
Yeah, so I think to get China right, you need a very long-term commitment and a lot of patience and resources. China's a market that's large and complex. So you either need to focus on one or two things very relentlessly and be patient that you're not going to be able to make progress every year on those one or two things, or have a broader reach and more of a palette and an approach that says you're going to work on whatever you can across those range of opportunities when the time is right for it. And I think what we find typically in China is as one door is closing or being delayed, others are opening and being accelerated. And so we try to be nimble and meet both opportunity as well of demand as well as opportunity of where you can make progress based on market.
Okay, you mentioned it will take time. It's probably, is it one of the most difficult markets? Say, would you? I know you mentioned China, Asia's a very big thing, but is it one of the most difficult markets?
So I wouldn't characterize it as one of the most difficult. I think all markets are difficult in certain regards, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think you really need to commit wherever you're going to play in this industry. I think you really need to commit to invest in a local market and to develop business along your strategy. So I wouldn't say that China's any more difficult or less difficult. I think what multiplies the attention on China, if you will, is just the sheer size and scale of both the opportunity and the rate of change.
Okay, looking back at Asia as the big picture, will it all be smooth sailing? And where do you see some of the challenges for asset managers?
Yeah, so I don't think, like any markets in the world, I don't think it's smooth sailing all the time. And I think the biggest challenges are just in the region are the dispersion of markets and environments. It's asynchronous, so it's unlikely that multiple countries or even regions with sub-regions within the area are moving in the same direction at the same pace at the same time. So I think the biggest challenge is just the sheer complexity in terms of number of markets and the dynamics of the change environment.
Okay, growth prospects, say in the next 5 to 10 years for Asia. I know it's a big one, and we can stick to China if you'd prefer. But also, how do you see Asia's asset management business being placed globally? Can it catch up, or where do you see the trend there?
So I think the growth prospects for the region remain strong. I don't know if I have a prediction for 5 years or year to year. I think it stays lumpy and diverse by market. So if I was going to anticipate or project, I would say over 5 years, some markets will be up, some will be flat, some will be down in terms of asset management growth. I think the secular trend is good. I think you still have democratization of access to investments. You have emerging middle and mass affluent class. I think you have an increasing need in terms of retirement savings in particular that forces a focus on investments in a different frame than perhaps has been the past. You have high rate of savings cultures generally throughout the region, though the markets of course vary market by market, but in general high rates of savings and a real need for people to invest more wisely with a stronger planning base and more of an outcomes orientation. I think that's good for the industry, and I also ultimately I think it's good for the people throughout the region who will have better product, better access, and hopefully better investment results.
Hey, Michael Falcon, thank you very much for talking to us.
Thanks for having me.
That's all we have time for on this session, but you can follow more of our conversations on Twitter. Just look for #FFAsia or look for @FundForum. Thanks for joining us. See you soon.